All right, there we go. We're recording. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Hava Blair. I'm a nutrient management specialist on the SnapPlus team. And today I'm here to tell you about our SMART app, our SMART mobile app. SMART stands for SnapPlus Manure Application Real-Time Tracker. So this presentation will be a description of what the app does, and then I'll take the second half to walk you through how you go about downloading it and actually using it and connecting the app with our Snap Maps application. So SMART is a companion app that can be used on Apple and Android mobile devices, and it is a companion to Snap Maps and SnapPlus. So for people that are using SnapPlus for nutrient management planning, this is a nice additional app that has some functionality related to spreading manure and not spreading manure where it is restricted. So let's first just get into a little bit more information about the background behind SMART. A couple of years ago, some of my colleagues, in addition to Kevin Erb, had meetings around the state with commercial manure haulers and custom applicators. And one of the pieces of feedback we heard as it relates to maps is that for haulers and applicators, they really wanted simple maps. So on the left side here, I've got an example of one of our maps that's showing multiple types of restrictions and features in the field. And that's really important information. But when you're out in the field spreading, what we heard is that folks just want to see, can I go or not go? So red or not red, so that it's really clear which parts of this field should not have manure spread on them. So this idea that we're going for simple maps is really the backbone behind the SMART app. And so this application was developed a couple of years ago with some funding from the Dairy Innovation Hub, and it can do a couple main things. The first thing it does is displays your location, the applicator's location, in real time on a field map. So when you download this application and you open it up and you get set up with your fields, you see your location as a little blue dot, which we have on the screen here. So it's just like when you're in Google Maps or mapping on your phone, it's using the GPS location of your phone to track where you are and where you've been. So that little blue dot is showing you where you are within the boundary of this field sort of polygon that I have on the screen here. And that helps you keep track of where you're at. And if you're getting close to any one of these red areas, that would be a no spread area. The second thing, oh, there we got my little red arrow. Second thing that SMART does is shows in red the areas where you should not be spreading that are restricted based on the season and on farm characteristics. So we know that there are different areas where you can't spread manure depending on if we're talking about winter or not winter. Is it a CAFO or a regular 590 farm? So these maps are updated based on the data that's in Snap Maps and in SnapPlus to show these red areas where manure is not allowed to be applied. When you do cross one of those red areas, then one of the things that the app does is it vibrates and it turns red to say, hey, based on your location here, this little blue dot, you've moved into a restricted area where you should not be spreading. So that's just sort of a physical and visual reminder that you are in one of these red areas and should not be spreading at that time. And then finally, in addition to helping you track in real time, what SMART can also do is actually save a record of those applications. So the day and the time and any information about them, in addition to the location of what you were tracking as you were using the app. So it saves each application when you press start and stop in the app. And then you have the option to specify a name for maybe the manure source, the pit or whatever you were hauling, and then also an optional load size if you're keeping track of how many loads or tons were spread across a given field. And by entering that information, what we can do is upload both the location of where you were spreading and some of this other data into Snap Maps and SnapPlus and generate spreadsheets that can be used for record keeping and can be used to actually upload as nutrient applications into your SnapPlus plan, and they will show up as applications there. So we're trying to work on making sure this is all easy to connect with SnapPlus. And when we move to version 3 of SnapPlus, which is on the web, we expect that integration will be even easier because we'll just be able to transfer that data without needing to do any additional import step. So let's talk about what you would do if you actually want to download SMART and start using it. The best place to go, first of all, to find it is on the SnapMaps website, because again, SMART is pulling data about the location and boundaries of your fields, and then where those restricted no spread areas are directly from SnapMaps. So one of the prerequisites for using SMART is that you do need to have any fields that you'd want to be spreading on and using the app already existing in a SnapPlus plan with their boundaries defined in SnapMaps, because that's where we're pulling that data. So I'm showing here on the screen a screenshot of our SnapMaps website. You can see I've loaded up from our Waba manure farm, just a demo farm that we have, and we have a tab on this web page for SMART. And so that's where you would go to find links to where you can download it from one of the app stores and find some more information. So when we go to that main SMART tab here, we have a couple different options. The first place I'll send you is this SMART homepage. And the SMART homepage has a little bit of information, but crucially, it shows you where you can go and click through on your phone to get to the Google Store or get to the Apple Store to actually download this onto your mobile device or your tablet or anything like that. So this is the easiest way to find that, or you can search it. It's pretty easy to search in the App Store too. If you just type in, SMART manure application, it'll come up pretty easily. So that information is all on the SMART web page that we got to through SnapMaps. Once you have gone ahead and downloaded the application, it's going to look like what I have under number 1 here. So let's just pretend that that's your phone screen or your tablet screen. And the first thing that we see at the top is that we don't currently have any farms downloaded. So you've downloaded the app, but you don't actually have any data yet, and you can't do any spreading or see any maps until you download data. So the way that you download data is by, again, going in your browser back to SnapMaps, and you'll need to identify the farm ID and name for the farm that you're working with, for the plan that you're working with. And so when you click on that farm ID and name menu option, you'll see something like what we have in the top left here, where there is an ID number, there's a farm name, and then there's this text in red because it's very important. So I'm going to emphasize that before you go ahead and enter this information into your phone and press the download button, it's really important to click this Update No Manure Layers button. And the reason that's important is because a lot of times when people are working on their plan, they're working in SnapMaps and going back and forth, they may make changes that will affect where those no manure areas are located. Maybe they added the location of a well or they changed a field boundary. We always want to make sure all those layers are totally updated before we download them onto our phone. And that way everything is matching up. Otherwise, you can get in a situation where you maybe did not have everything current in SnapMaps, and then you don't have a current map on your phone to use with the app. So I just want to emphasize that that's an important step, is clicking that update button. So once we've clicked update, the next thing we would do is go ahead and fill in this farm ID and farm name. And the farm name has to be exactly matching. So if you have any punctuation or things like that, that can sometimes trip people up. We need these two things to match in order for that data download to happen. So we've entered our information, and now we can click download. And what will happen is that you will download information from SnapMaps about the field boundaries and those restricted areas onto your phone. And then when that's done, you'll see that you now have an option to actually select a farm up in this top box. So we have 2 different farms here. We have my Waba manure farm, which is a 590 farm. And then I also have a CAFO example. And I'm showing 2 examples here because the 590 farms and the CAFOs have different map types available. And not just as a function of the different types of buffers and different restrictions that you would have if you were a CAFO operation. So once you've selected the farm that you want to be working with, then you can go down and select which map type you want to use in the SMART application at that time. So you can pick a no manure map and then a winter no manure map if you're a 590 farm. And if you're a CAFO, you actually have 3 options. You have this incorporated or injection option, which is associated with a 25-foot buffer on the waterways. You have a surface application map, which has a larger buffer, that's 100-foot buffer. And then there's the winter map. So selecting the correct map type is important before you proceed. And then at this point, if you're getting ready to apply, the next thing you can do, which is optional, is enter the name of the manure and then like load size, if you want to keep track of that information and have that for record keeping purposes upload it to SnapPlus. That's good information to enter here before you actually start spreading. So once we've selected our map type and we've entered any other information we want here, we can go ahead and go to the map. So we've got everything selected. We want to see the no manure map for this 590 farm. That will take us to the field location here. And so we can see we have some little red areas on the map where we cannot spread. And then when we're ready to go and ready to actually start tracking an application, we would press this Start Tracking button in the bottom left corner. And when you do that, what we see is you have your little blue dot that tells you where you are currently located. And then as soon as you press that Start Tracking button and you start moving, then the blue line is telling you where you've already been. So it's sort of tracking you as you move throughout the field. In this case, of course, we're testing in Madison where our offices are located. So you see buildings on this map, which would not be reflective of actual spreading. But I just wanted to point out that we see this blue line when you're active. You've got a little path that's being tracked here. In this case, somebody moved into a no spread area. And then when you're done with that application and you want to save it, you would press stop or save, and then it turns green. That line turns green to tell you, okay, that's a completed application. It helps you distinguish between what might be a active line if you're moving across a field, and then something that was a previous application that's already saved, and we're tracking the location of that with that green line. So let's say you've completed a number of applications. We have a screen that you can go to on the bottom right here. It's the Filter and Tools screen on your phone. And that's where you manage any applications that you've already saved. And then you have the option to upload those applications back to SnapMaps and have those connected up with your existing SnapMaps data. So on this page, we can look through and say, okay, I want to see the applications from the last week or the last month, and then look at those on the map on your phone to make sure that you're seeing what you expect. You can delete applications if you're playing around and you have some old ones and you don't need that data. You can always delete those with this section in the middle of the screen. And then once you have a list of applications that you're ready to upload, that's when you would press this bottom button, and that will send the information that you've saved on your phone from tracking to SnapMaps, where you can either make a spreadsheet or look at it on SnapMaps in the browser and sort of see that within the mapping interface. So I'll show you what that looks like here. If we had uploaded and pressed that upload button, now we see any saved applications as these green lines, that those are uploaded from SMART. And then we also have an option to go back into that SMART menu on the SnapMaps website and export those manure applications to Excel. And that's what I'm showing in the screenshot on the bottom, where any information that we entered about the source of the manure and where that manure was applied based on your location and loads or, tons of manure, that stuff would all show up here. And it'll export it for you in a spreadsheet format that's already ready to go and can be imported back into the SnapPlus desktop application as manure spreading, record keeping, and it'll be loaded up there in SnapPlus in the correct format. So that is something that's optional if you want to not only use the app in the field as sort of a real-time tracker, but also use it for record keeping purposes. We have some functionality built in to do exactly that. A couple additional considerations that I'll mention here before I open it up for questions and discussions. The more fields a farm has, the longer the download will take. And so I just want to mention this because, we do have people with hundreds of fields. Some of our, CAFO users will have 300, 400, 500 fields. And so that's a lot of data. It's a lot of geospatial data to download onto your phone. And so I just want to put that caution out there that if you press download and you just think, nothing is happening, just be aware that the more fields you have, the longer that download will take. And so it might be something to consider if you're working with somebody and they seem to be struggling with this. One of the things to think about is how many fields there are, and do we have an opportunity to just upload and work with a sub-farm or a subset of fields within SnapMaps to make that download a little faster. And if you do that, again, it's just really important to be making sure that you're pressing update and keeping all of the layers updated if you're working on more of a sub-farm basis in this case. And then the final thing I want to mention is that occasionally users that have older Android model phones will have issues with the, smart maybe not tracking the location like you would expect. And we haven't been able to find a pattern to this as far as like a bug to fix, but I think it just has to do with people having older model phones that are maybe not compatible with some of the existing Android software that we have to keep up to date. So I just want to mention that in case it comes up as like, hey, this is not working. We've heard that about some Android phones. So certainly let us know if this is something you run into and it's not working for you. We try to keep track of any sort of systematic issues like that so we can troubleshoot. So I just wanted to bring that up in case it's relevant and somebody's trying to download it and it does not seem to be working for them. So with that, pretty quick intro there. I just want to say thanks and put up the faces of my other team members on the SnapPlus team. So SMART was developed a couple years ago, and we hope that it's useful, and we always look forward to getting feedback on how it can be more useful. And we do expect to try to add features to SMART after the release of version 3 of SnapPlus. So we're not currently in active development on this app, but it's available. It connects to the current version of SnapPlus. And we're looking forward to spending more time updating it once we have this new web-based version 3 of SnapPlus that will allow us to make some of these connections and sort of data integrations even easier. So I wanted to let you know that that's on the horizon, but we're eager to get any feedback and encourage people to use the app now because it does have a lot of features that can be useful if you're spreading and need to know where you're spreading in the field. All right. I've got my eye on the chat. That's all the slides I have prepared. I have a few extra if people have questions or want to go back. So I think what I'll do is just open it up for questions or discussion that would be relevant to this group as you think about which aspects of this app would be relevant for your CSP enhancement.
Yeah, thanks, Hava. Really good. As far as the devices, do you think that just the average iPad or average Android tablet is going to be pretty good?
That's been our experience. Yeah, for sure. We used an iPad at the Manure Expo this year, and that's really nice because you get the bigger screen, and you can see where you're going a little better. We have both iPhone and Android users on our team, and we test it and have been able to use it. It's just like occasionally somebody, different Android phone that's like, we haven't been able to find a rhyme or reason to, oh, it's this exact Samsung model or that exact model. But I just wanted to bring it up because, there's so many phones out there these days that I don't want people to be surprised if something weird is happening. Just let us know and we'll look into it.
Yeah, it's great. And it's those devices, when we demoed that out in the field, some of them can beep, right? And they're being audible alarm that you're approaching a setback, or it would vibrate or something like that.
Yeah, right now it's vibrating, but not beeping. Vibrating, and there's sort of a red banner. I think I had a picture of it. There's a red banner that shows up. Yeah, there. So it's when you go into that no area, it's vibrating, and then it's kind of flashing that red on either side of the screen to kind of catch your eye and say, hey, you're in this area that's a restricted area.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how accurate do you feel we are in the field compared to where the thing is on the map? This is using the polygons developed from Snap Maps, which have pretty high accuracy, right? With a portable Bluetooth GPS antenna, you think we're plus or minus a few feet for accuracy?
Ooh. That's a great question, and I haven't actually gone out and tested that myself, so I'm not sure. We've had good success with that sort of portable chip, Bluetooth chip. So yeah, I don't know if I'm comfortable putting an exact number on it, but certainly I think it's pretty good. It tracks pretty good as long as your boundaries are okay on the map. Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you have good reception on the device. So
yes, right. And that was one of the things that we found helpful with using one of those little Bluetooth chips when we did it on our tablet, and that worked out pretty good. It was a little Garmin device.
Yep. I've used those in precision soil sampling, and it works just fine for that level of precision agriculture. We're not down to the centimeter, but certainly good enough for manure spreading setbacks.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's funny because I was in Wapaka County yesterday giving a presentation and I talked about SMART and got some good feedback too that, you know, this I'll point out that the line that you see drawn is not you know, we're not changing the width of that line based on your spreader, you know, how big your spreader is. And so it's showing you where you've been, but if you're thinking about like field coverage, you're not going to be able to just look at the map and know like, did I cover that field? Because the line is not, you know, we're not changing that based on spreader width or anything. So I'll just point that out to say that it's tracking your location, but in terms of spreading width, you could have different spreading widths based on the operating equipment.
It's good. I'll also leave it open for other folks on if they have questions. But I have another question.
All right.
I wonder about the data. How can we use this and then document that the activity was completed? We've got the spreadsheet, right? Snap, Smart will actually let us export the data then as a spreadsheet. That could be proof then it was used and done according to what we need to see for documentation.
Right, because yeah, I think this page shows some information about that because you can see, you know, where within the field did the spreading happen, and then it'll have a date stamp on it on the spreadsheet there, like when, I think I've got the date, yeah, application date would be on there, and then if they're entering in, the field ID would be filled in based on which field boundary you're currently within, so it's sort of automatically tracking, okay, this was within field 1 in this case, and then the idea with the spreadsheet export is that you can have that spreadsheet, but that spreadsheet is also something that can be imported into your SnapPlus nutrient management plan as an application record too. So just thinking in terms of keeping all this information together with what you might have in your nutrient management plan, you can actually upload that spreadsheet and it becomes an application record and shows as a applied, done application in your plan.
Yeah, I think actually that's perfect for what we need for documentation. We wrote an enhancement activity that required, you know, the export of digital maps in certain formats and documentation. All the polygons were digitized, things like that. But I think with this new app, we're actually kind of beyond that. You know, we're using Snap Maps to make those polygons in the first place. They use the SWCMA layers for spreading restriction layers and also those specific to CAFOs as well. And then they show up. So I think we're meeting the needs of that. It's just the documentation that it was actually used in the field and done and the manure was applied. So I think it's going to be a good fit.
Super.
Yeah.
I think I saw Matt maybe unmuted. I don't know if you had a question, Matt.
I certainly do. Could you go to the other page that you had up where that red line's kind of across the center of the, yeah. So let's say that red line is either a grass waterway or a concentrated flow channel, you know, something they probably should stay out of when spreading. How would this work if they want to cross that and obviously they turn the spreader off or the injector off or whatever it is? How does that show on here? Or is that blue line going to say, it looks like you went through it? You get what I'm saying? That for our documentation, like, hey, we need to stay out of there, but if you hit the stop save, is that resetting it like a new application then, or how does that work? Maybe explain a little on that for us.
Yes, right. So, and actually I have a good example here on the right side of the screen where you can see there's a break in this green line. And so what that is somebody pressed stop and then they drove a little bit and then they pressed start again. So it will be saved as two separate applications, two separate rows in the spreadsheet, but they will be showing on the same date in the same field. So that's something where if you would still see it visually when you look at the map. And then if you do that spreadsheet export, you would see, okay, I have 3, 4, 5, you know, multiple applications. That application just means they press start and stop. So in reality, you might have this whole group of related applications that all apply to the same field if they had to do like what you were describing and start and stop it. So in that case, for record keeping, you know, pressing stop will create a visual break here to show like, hey, this presumably you weren't spreading there if you want to document it that way. And then when you actually get to the spreadsheet part of it, on the record keeping end and in SnapPlus, what we would want to end up doing is like adding up all of that manure, so we just get a single number that is applied to the field. But there is a way to show visually on the map a break if people press start and stop. So, I'm not sure on your end, it's like could they just explain that, we're using this technology to identify the red areas, but we didn't necessarily weren't pressing the button on and off all the time, and they used it for their awareness of where to do that. But we certainly have the ability to track breaks like that.
Yeah, I think that's something we'll have to hash out, with Mike and our resources staff and nutrient management for that. For what do we want to see? I mean, the map with the break in it is cleaner and easier from a visual perspective for sure.
Mhm.
But I think on the back end, that's a lot of extra data shenanigans behind the scenes than in SnapPlus. So, if they had a narrative or even a picture at the end of the application period looking down that concentrated flow channel saying we did not apply in it, you could see it on each side. Something like that. Yeah, I'm good with either way or whatever it happens. But yeah, that was just kind of my curious, because it'll be tricky for them to remember to either hit the stop and start button or it'll look really bad on a map one
Yeah,
way or the other. So, and
yeah, that's
hey,
a good
we
point.
did it. Well, did you? Because the map doesn't look like it. So
There is another aspect to it, Matt and Hava, is that they do have to shut off the manure flow with a lever or a button too. So the app could be faked
Yeah.
to indicate they didn't spread through a waterway when they didn't actually. So that's the whole idea of our enhancement, Hava, is to just give the producer an awareness to the map, a live tracking tool that says, oh, you're coming up to a restriction, get ready with the shut off button, boom,
Mhm.
shut it off. Yeah, if we make them go and have to touch the app and stuff to it's just another button and another step. But
Sure.
again, it's just to increase the producer's awareness that they're coming to a restricted zone, so they're aware to shut it off. So
Mhm.
we don't penalize them if it's accidentally 1 foot over. But
Sure.
again,
Yeah, I didn't
it's
get there
technology
in
for
time.
yeah.
and I had the same thought too, is let's say they, instead of having to cross it, they just turn around in it. You might be 10 or 15 feet into it. Yeah, the machine's off or the whatever, the spreader's not even in it. It would look like it's on it. So that same kind of concept there. Thanks for explaining that though, Hava. It
Sure.
makes sense to me.
Yeah.
That's good. And Hava, for other documentation, then producers, of course, to do this type of enhancement activity, they of course has to show us a completed nutrient management plan, right? So we're spreading according to the rates and times of the year that our nutrient management plan says we're supposed to. We require all the maps to go along with that anyway. Those are digitized maps. They're just, the output is a PDF from
Mhm.
Snap Maps. So we've got that. There isn't any way to export these as a visual map yet, is there?
So
We've got
from
a tracking, but
from within Smart, no, but in Snap Maps, yes. So let me just go to my extra slides here. I anticipated a couple of these questions. So we do have ways to export PDFs from Snap Maps that would show some of that same information. And here, this example is sort of getting at your question, but I'll tell you more. So this is showing how do I make a static PDF of those manure prohibited areas that would be showing up in Smart. But we could turn on the additional, we have a specific feature, and it looks like I don't have it in the legend, but we'll just imagine, we have all these little buttons in the legend to turn on manure prohibited, turn on incorporated areas. We have one that shows the uploaded green lines that represent those Snap Smart applications. Those are like a entry in the legend that you can toggle on and off. So if you've uploaded a bunch of these to your Snap Maps and you want to see them, you toggle on that switch, and then you can go through that process of creating a custom PDF map if you're looking to just have kind of a static representation of, here's my boundary, here's my green application lines, and then any other features that you wanted to click on in the legend to show, relative to the restriction areas and all that kind of stuff.
So have you done that, Hava? Take a cropland and then do all the tracking and then bring that layer in and then try and make a PDF map out of that yet?
Let's see, I've done everything except for that final PDF export. So we did all of that as part of the Manure Expo where that's what this image is from. We were driving around in that little UTV, and then we upload it to Smart to show people what that looks like, because you can upload it right away, or upload it to Snap Maps rather. And the only thing I haven't done is that final sort of PDF step.
Okay.
But I can certainly show, that's kind of what I have those extra slides for. It's just a kind of a question of turning on the right layers and then doing this PDF creation tab that we have within Snap Maps and choosing, choosing your option there. I've got my screen blocking it a little bit. So you can define the print area and do that, all that kind of stuff to make the PDF map.
No, that's good. And I think showing those tracking lines, it would definitely then show proof that it was done that way. So I think it'd be sufficient.
Right.
It's awesome.
Great.
Thank you, Hava.
Yeah, you're welcome. I will, I'm gonna remember to stop the recording here.